17 handlers in 12 weeks. That was the number glowing on Director Mallow's display screen, and each one represented a failure that cost the station thousands of credits in medical bills and repairs. The pellucid administrator shifted his gelatinous body and reviewed the list once more. Broken bones, acid burns, psychological trauma. One handler had refused to return to work entirely after spending just 6 hours with the creature. The Vashkari Wardrake hatchling was supposed to be a triumph, the first of her species born in captivity in over 400 years. Instead, she had become the most expensive mistake in the station's history. Mallow pulled up the security feed from Containment Chamber 9. The hatchling paced in endless circles, her scales shifting through angry shades of red and orange. She was only 3 months old, but already measured 6 feet from snout to tail. Her single spiraling horn scraped against the reinforced walls with each pass, leaving deep grooves in material designed to withstand asteroid impacts. The venom glands beneath her jaw pulsed with deadly potential. The door to his office opened and Bryn limped inside. The Avori handler moved carefully, his left wing still wrapped in healing bandages. 3 weeks ago, that wing had been fully functional. Then he had tried to feed the hatchling. "You wanted to see me, Director." Bryn's voice carried the exhaustion of someone who had stopped sleeping well. Mallow gestured to a chair. "I need your honest assessment. Can this creature be saved?" Bryn settled into the seat and was quiet for a long moment. His species was known throughout the galaxy for their patience with beasts. The Avori had domesticated creatures that others thought impossible to tame. But when he finally spoke, his words held no hope. "She does not just attack us, she hates us. I have worked with aggressive animals my entire career. I understand fear responses and territorial behavior. This is different. When she looks at you, there is something personal in her eyes. She wants to cause pain." The door opened again, and Dr. Yessen entered without waiting for permission. The Hollock scientist moved on all 6 limbs, his insectoid body clicking with agitation. "I assume you are discussing the specimen," Yessen said. "I have prepared my formal recommendation. Euthanasia is the only responsible option." Bryn flinched at the word, but did not argue. "Her species was engineered for violence," Yessen continued. "Millennia ago, the Vashkari created wardrakes as living weapons. That programming is embedded in her genetics. She cannot be trained. She cannot be rehabilitated. And she will only grow larger and more dangerous with each passing week." Mallow absorbed the information in silence. The scientist was not wrong. Everything in the hatchling's biology screamed predator. Her teeth could pierce starship hull plating. Her venom could dissolve organic matter in seconds. Her scales were harder than most armor. But destroying her meant admitting defeat. It meant telling the Galactic Union that conservation efforts had failed before they truly began. It meant killing the last hope for an entire species. "There is one option we have not tried," Mallow said slowly. "The human." Both Bryn and Yessen went still. "Her name is Penny Alcott," Mallow continued. "She has worked with dangerous xenofauna for 15 years. Her record includes successful rehabilitation of species that others deemed hopeless." "Humans?" Yessen said the word like it tasted strange. "I have heard stories about their kind. They form attachments to creatures that should terrify them. It borders on mental illness." "Or perhaps it is something we do not understand," Mallow replied. The transport arrived the next morning. Penny Alcott stepped onto the station with a duffel bag over her shoulder and a calm expression that seemed entirely inappropriate for someone walking into a disaster zone. She was smaller than Mallow expected. Average height by human standards, with brown hair pulled back in a practical knot and clothing that looked comfortable rather than professional. Nothing about her suggested someone capable of handling the most dangerous juvenile creature in known space. "Miss Alcott," Mallow began, "I must be honest about the situation. This hatchling has injured 17 handlers. Dr. Yessen has recommended euthanasia. Chief Security Officer Dorn wants the creature destroyed before it grows any larger. You are our final option." Penny listened to everything without interrupting. She nodded at the appropriate moments and asked intelligent questions about the hatchling's diet, sleeping patterns, and enclosure conditions. When Mallow finished, she was quiet for several seconds. Then she asked a question that made no sense to anyone in the room. "Has anyone tried just being nice to her?" Mallow's gelatinous form rippled with confusion. "I do not understand." "Nice," Penny repeated. "Kind, gentle. Has anyone sat with her, talked to her, treated her like a scared baby instead of a monster?" The silence stretched long enough to become uncomfortable. "She is a war drake," Yessen finally said. "She is genetically programmed for aggression." Penny smiled, but there was something sad in it. Every creature I have ever worked with was supposed to be impossible. They told me the same thing every time. Too dangerous, too aggressive, too far gone, she shrugged. Maybe I am just too stubborn to listen. She picked up her bag and looked at Mallow. "Show me where she is. I would like to meet her." As they walked toward Containment Chamber 9, Mallow found himself wondering if humans were brave or simply incapable of understanding danger. He supposed he would find out soon enough. The files told a story of violence and failure. Penny sat in the small quarters assigned to her and read through every report, every incident log, every medical record. But she was not looking for what the others had seen. She was looking for what they had missed. Feeding Protocol 7, Mechanical Delivery System, distance maintained at all times. Cleaning Protocol 4, Automated Scrubbers, no handler entry required. Medical Assessment Protocol, sedation via remote injection, examination under heavy restraint. Penny closed the files and stared at the ceiling. Every single interaction had been designed to minimize contact. Every approach had treated the hatchling as a threat to be managed rather than a creature to be understood. No wonder she was angry. The next morning, Penny visited the station's supply depot. The requisitions officer, a young pellucid named Sallow, watched with growing confusion as she made her requests. "A blanket from my quarters, dried meat from the human food supplies, and do you have any ribbon, purple if possible?" Sallow's translucent body flickered with uncertainty. "Ribbon, for the war drake." "For me," Penny said, "I like purple." She arrived at Containment Chamber 9 to find a crowd waiting. Security, Chief Dorn stood near the observation window, his stone-like body rigid with disapproval. A medical team waited nearby with emergency equipment. Dr. Yessen had positioned himself at a monitoring station, ready to document what he clearly expected to be another failure. Through the reinforced glass, Penny got her first real look at the hatchling. She was beautiful in a terrifying way. Scales like polished obsidian caught the harsh overhead lights. The single horn spiraled up from her forehead like a crown. Her eyes were golden and filled with something that most people probably mistook for hatred. Penny recognized it immediately. She had seen it in abused dogs, neglected horses, and every frightened animal she had ever worked with. That was not hatred, that was fear. "I need the overhead lights dimmed," Penny said. Dorn's rocky face shifted into something like a frown. "Why?" "War drakes are ambush predators. Bright light makes them feel exposed. Every instinct she has is screaming that she is in danger." Penny pointed at the ceiling. "Those lights are telling her that something is about to attack." The request was granted, though Dorn did not look happy about it. The chamber dimmed to a soft glow, and through the glass, Penny watched the hatchling scales shift slightly. Still aggressive colors, but not as intense. "I am going in," Penny announced. "You will wear the containment suit," Dorn said. It was not a question. "No," Penny kept her voice calm. "The suit smells like fear. Every handler who wore it was terrified, and that scent soaked into the material. She associates that smell with threats. If I go in wearing it, she will attack before I even get through the door. The argument lasted 20 minutes. Dorn insisted on protocols. Penny explained why those protocols had failed 17 times. Director Mallow eventually authorized the entry, though he made Penny sign several documents first. The airlock hissed open, and Penny stepped into the chamber. The hatchling reacted instantly. Her scales flared bright red. Her spines extended along her back. A low growl rumbled from her chest, and her golden eyes locked onto Penny with predatory focus. Penny did not approach. She did not speak loudly or make sudden movements. Instead, she walked slowly to the far wall, about 20 feet from the hatchling, and sat down on the floor. Then she started humming. It was an old song from home, something her grandmother used to sing while working in the garden. The melody was simple and soft, barely louder than breathing. The hatchling did not attack. She watched with obvious confusion. This was not how handlers behaved. Handlers approached with tools and restraints. Handlers smelled like fear and moved with nervous energy. This human just sat there making strange noises. An hour passed. Then two. Penny kept humming, occasionally switching to quiet talking. She described the ranch where she grew up, the horses that used to follow her around hopping for treats, the way Montana looked when the sun set over the mountains. The observation team grew restless. Dorn wanted to pull her out. Yesin muttered about wasted time, but Mallow told them to wait. In the third hour, something changed. The hatchling's scales faded from aggressive red to a cautious orange. Her spine slowly retracted. She was still watching Penny, still ready to fight, but the immediate threat response had begun to fade. Near the end of the fourth hour, the hatchling did something she had never done with a handler present. She lay down, not the coiled position she usually held, ready to spring at any moment, an actual resting posture. Penny smiled but did not react otherwise. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a piece of dried meat. Slowly, carefully, she placed it on the floor between herself and the hatchling. Then she stood, walked to the airlock, and left without looking back. The security feeds showed what happened 3 hours later. The hatchling crept toward the offering, sniffed it carefully, and swallowed it whole. For the first time in her short life, she had accepted something from a handler without violence. In her quarters that night, Penny allowed herself a small moment of hope. There was a long way to go, but something had changed today. A door had cracked open just slightly. Tomorrow, she would try to open it a little more. Day 5 began with a surprise. When Penny entered Containment Chamber 9, the hatchling was already waiting near the spot where she usually sat. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to show that the creature had been anticipating her arrival. Progress. Penny settled into her usual position and pulled something new from her bag. A ball, simple rubber, bright blue. She did not throw it at the hatchling or try to engage her directly. Instead, she rolled it across the floor in front of herself, letting it bounce gently off the far wall and return to her hand. The hatchling's head tracked the movement. Her pupils dilated with sudden interest. Predator instincts activated, but not aggressively. This was something different. This was curiosity. Penny rolled the ball again, and again. She made it part of her routine, just another thing she did while sitting in the chamber. After 20 minutes, she let the ball roll slightly off course, closer to the hatchling than before. The creature pounced. She caught the ball in her jaws, shook it violently, and shredded it into pieces within seconds. Blue rubber scattered across the floor, and the hatchling stood over the remains like a conqueror. Penny laughed. The sound surprised everyone watching through the observation window, including the hatchling herself. "Very impressive," Penny said warmly. "You are quite the hunter." She pulled another ball from her bag. This time, she rolled it directly toward the hatchling. The creature destroyed it just as quickly, but her scales had shifted to something almost playful. Not aggressive red or cautious orange. something closer to excited purple. The next week brought rapid changes. The hatchling began approaching Penny during their sessions. She would sniff at Penny's clothes, investigate her hair, circle around her with growing comfort. Each day, the distance between them shrank. On day 8, the hatchling licked Penny's hand. Her tongue was rough enough to strip paint from metal, but she was gentle about it, testing, exploring, learning that this human was safe. Bryn watched from the observation room, his injured wing forgotten. "I do not understand," he said quietly. "She nearly killed me for entering her space. She lets this human touch her." "Humans are strange," Dr. Yessen replied, but his voice lacked its usual dismissive tone. He was watching the data feeds and the numbers confused him. The hatchling's stress hormones were dropping. Her aggression indicators were falling. Something was genuinely changing in her brain chemistry. Day 10 became the turning point. Penny sat in her usual spot, humming softly, when the hatchling approached closer than ever before. She pressed her snout against Penny's shoulder and made a sound that no one on the station had ever heard from a war drake. A low rumble, almost like a purr. Penny held very still. She spoke in a low, gentle voice, telling the hatchling that she was safe, that no one would hurt her, that everything was going to be okay. Then slowly, she reached up and touched the creature's snout. In the observation room, the medical team prepared to rush in. Dorn's hand moved toward the emergency alarm. Everyone expected violence. The hatchling leaned into the touch. Penny smiled and reached into her pocket with her other hand. She pulled out the purple ribbon she had requested days ago. Moving slowly, telegraphing every motion, she tied a simple bow around the base of the hatchling's spiraling horn. The creature shook her head once, testing the strange sensation. The ribbon fluttered but stayed in place. She seemed to consider it for a moment, then settled back down against Penny. "There we go," Penny said softly. "I think Princess suits you just fine." The name spread through the station within hours. The handlers who had been injured, the scientists who had recommended euthanasia, the security officers who had wanted the creature destroyed. Everyone heard that the human had given the wardrake a name, and not just any name, Princess. Some found it ridiculous, others found it strange, but those who watched the security feeds saw something that changed their opinions entirely. The hatchling responded to the name. When Penny said "Princess," the creature's head would turn. Her scales would shift to calmer colors. She would move toward the human with something that looked remarkably like affection. Director Mallow called Penny to his office that evening. He had questions. "How did you know it would work?" he asked. "The name, the ribbon, all of it." Penny considered the question. "I did not know, but I understood something that the others missed. She was not attacking because she wanted to hurt people. She was attacking because she was scared and alone. No one had ever been gentle with her. No one had ever treated her like she mattered." "And the ribbon." "My grandmother used to tie ribbons on our horses. She said it made them feel special. I thought maybe Princess needed to feel special too." Mallow's gelatinous form rippled with something that might have been admiration. "You took an enormous risk." "I know," Penny stood to leave. "But some things are worth the risk. She deserved a chance to be more than what they made her. Now she is getting that chance." She returned to Containment Chamber 9 that night, even though her shift had ended. Princess was waiting, the purple ribbon bright against her dark scales. Penny sat down, and the wardrake curled up beside her. For the first time since her birth, Princess was not alone. 3 weeks transformed everything. Princess now waited at the chamber entrance every morning, her tail swishing with anticipation when Penny appeared. The purple ribbon had been replaced twice as she grew, each new one tied with the same care as the first. She was over 7 feet long now, her scales darkening to their adult coloration, but her demeanor had completely changed. With Penny, she was gentle, playful, almost sweet. The training sessions had begun naturally. Not commands enforced through fear or punishment, but boundaries established through patience. Touch meant asking permission before approaching. Back created space when things felt overwhelming. Easy helped her calm down when excitement got the better of her. Princess learned quickly. Her intelligence surprised everyone who had assumed war drakes were just mindless weapons. She understood cause and effect. She remembered routines. She even seemed to anticipate what Penny wanted before the words were spoken. It was time for the next step. "You want to take her where?" Director Mallow's body rippled with alarm. "The botanical garden," Penny repeated. "A supervised walk. She has been in that chamber her entire life. She needs to experience more of the world. She is a wardrake, loose in a populated area. She is a well-behaved young creature who has not shown aggression in over 2 weeks." Penny kept her voice calm. "Keeping her locked up forever will undo all the progress we have made. She needs to learn that the world outside is not something to fear." The argument lasted 2 hours. Dorn opposed it completely. Yesen had concerns about scientific protocols, but Bryn, surprisingly, spoke in favor. "I have watched the feeds every day," the Avori said. "She is not the same creature that injured me. If anyone had told me 3 weeks ago that I would support this, I would have thought them insane. But I believe the human knows what she is doing." Mallow eventually approved the walk with extensive conditions. Security would maintain distance but remain ready. The route would be cleared of non-essential personnel. Medical teams would stand by. The next morning, Penny attached a lightweight lead to Princess's collar. Not to control her, but to signal to others that the wardrake was under supervision. Princess sniffed the lead curiously, but did not object. The airlock opened, and they stepped into the corridor together. The first station residents they encountered pressed themselves against the walls in terror. A wardrake with a purple ribbon on her horn walked through their halls like it was perfectly normal. Some had heard stories of what her species did during the ancient wars. Planets burned, armies slaughtered, cities reduced to ash. Princess noticed their fear. Her scales shifted to anxious colors, and she looked to Penny for guidance. "Easy," Penny said softly. "They are just surprised. Keep walking." They continued through the corridors, past research labs and living quarters, until they reached the botanical garden. The space was designed to remind station residents of home, filled with plants from 100 different worlds. Princess had never seen anything like it. She moved through the garden with wide-eyed wonder, sniffing flowers and investigating water features. Her tail knocked over a small decorative stone, and she actually looked embarrassed about it. Penny laughed and told her it was okay. An Avori child watched from behind their parents' legs. Princess noticed and went still, her head tilting with curiosity. "Can I pet the dragon?" the child asked. The parent looked horrified. Penny looked at Princess. "What do you think?" she asked quietly. "Gentle, okay?" Princess lowered her massive head slowly. The child reached out with tiny feathered fingers and stroked her snout. A delighted giggle echoed through the garden. That moment changed things. Word spread through the station that the wardrake had let a child touch her. The monster was not a monster. She was just a baby who had needed someone to believe in her. But not everyone was convinced. Dr. Yesen found Penny after the walk. His insectoid body clicked with agitation. "You are playing a dangerous game," he said. "Her genetics demand violence. One day she will snap and you will die. All of this progress will be revealed as temporary." Penny listened without interrupting. When he finished, she asked him a question. "When she hatched, did anyone hold her? Did anyone comfort her when she was scared? Or did everyone just see a weapon from the very first moment?" Yesen had no answer. That night, a power fluctuation plunged the containment section into darkness. Emergency protocols engaged, locking all chambers. Alarms blared. Systems went into protective shutdown. Penny ran through the dark corridors until she reached Chamber 9, Through the emergency feeds, she could see Princess thrashing in panic. Her scales flickered wildly. Her horn gouged the walls. She was utterly terrified. "Let me in," Penny demanded. Dorn blocked her path. "Absolutely not. A panicked wardrake is deadly. She will kill you. She will hurt herself if someone does not calm her down." Penny pushed past him and overrode the lock manually. The door opened, and she stepped into darkness. Princess's growls filled the chamber. Penny could not see her, but she could hear her moving, crashing against walls, lost in terror. Penny sat down on the floor and started humming. The growls paused, the crashing stopped. In the darkness, something massive moved toward her. Princess found Penny by scent and sound, pressed her enormous head against the human's chest, and made that low, rumbling purr. Penny wrapped her arms around her and held on. When the lights finally returned, the security team found them curled together on the floor. Human and wardrake, both asleep, both at peace. Some bonds cannot be explained by science. Some connections run deeper than genetics or programming. Princess had found her person, and she would never let her go. The transport that arrived 2 months into the program was not a supply ship. It was a military cruiser bearing the insignia of the Galactic Union Defense Council. Director Mallow watched from his office as the delegation disembarked. 4 Grellian officers in formal armor, 2 Halak scientists with military clearances, and leading them all, Admiral Chorus, whose reputation for cold efficiency was known throughout the galaxy. This was not a social visit. "Your reports have attracted significant attention," the Admiral said when they gathered in the conference room. Her stone-like body was darker than Dorn's, harder, more polished. Everything about her suggested authority that expected obedience. "Princess is making excellent progress," Mallow replied carefully. "Her rehabilitation has exceeded all expectations." Indeed, Chorus activated a holographic display showing images of Princess walking through the botanical garden, playing with toys, sleeping curled against Penny. A Vashkari wardrake domesticated, the first in recorded history. Do you understand the military implications? Mallow felt something cold settle in his core. "She is a conservation success, Admiral, not a weapon." Wardrakes were always weapons. That is what they were designed for. Chorus gestured to her scientists. "If this bonding process can be replicated, we could create entire squads of loyal wardrakes, living armor for our soldiers, biological weapons that follow commands. The strategic advantage would be immense." The proposal landed on the table like a bomb. They wanted to take Princess to a military facility. They wanted Penny to train their handlers. They wanted to breed the creature and mass-produce the results. They wanted to turn love into a weapon. Penny received the news in her quarters. She listened to everything Director Mallow told her, then stood in silence for a long moment. "No," she said finally. "Miss Alcott, the decision may not be ours to make. The Admiral has authority that—" "No," Penny's voice hardened. "Princess is not a template. She is not hardware to be replicated. She is a living being who learned to trust me. I will not hand her over to people who see her as military equipment." The confrontation happened the next day. Admiral Chorus summoned Penny to the conference room, clearly expecting compliance. "Miss Alcott, your cooperation is not optional. Princess is Union property. You are a Union employee. The transfer has already been authorized." Penny stood her ground. "Then you will need to find another handler. I will not help you weaponize her." "You misunderstand." Chorus leaned forward. "You will come with us as well. Your unique abilities are valuable. We are not asking." The door to the conference room opened, and Princess pushed through. She had followed Penny's scent through the station, her growing intelligence telling her that something was wrong. Now she stood in the doorway, 8 feet of scales and muscle and deadly potential, and her golden eyes locked onto the Admiral. Penny's stress was obvious to her, and Princess did not like it. Her scales shifted to warning red. Her spines extended along her back. A low growl built in her chest, and for the first time since Penny had taken over her care, the Wardrake displayed genuine aggression. Not toward Penny, toward the threat. Security, Chorus snapped. Soldiers raised weapons. Princess positioned herself between Penny and the guns, her body a living shield. The purple ribbon on her horn fluttered as she lowered her head, ready to charge. "Everyone stay calm," Penny said quickly. She stepped forward and placed her hand on Princess's neck. "Easy, easy, they are not going to hurt us." "She is protecting you," Mallow observed. "She perceives us as threats to her handler." "Which makes her even more valuable," Chorus replied coldly. "A Wardrake that will die to protect its bonded partner, exactly what we need." Princess's growl deepened. She understood tone, and the Admiral's voice held nothing but calculation. "If you try to take her by force, people will die," Penny said. "Look at her, she is not bluffing, and neither am I." The standoff lasted for several tense minutes. Soldiers held their positions. Princess held hers. No one moved. Finally, Mallow spoke. "Admiral, I must point out the practical difficulties. Removing the creature against the handlers will render the entire program useless. Princess responds only to Miss Alcott. Without her cooperation, you gain nothing but a dangerous animal." Chorus considered this. Her face revealed nothing, but eventually she signaled her soldiers to lower their weapons. "This is not over," she said. "I will return with alternative solutions." The delegation withdrew, but the threat remained. They would find another way. They always did. That evening, Penny sat with Princess in the botanical garden. The Wardrake's scales had returned to peaceful colors, but she stayed close, still alert for danger. "I am sorry," Penny whispered. "I should have protected you better. I should have known they would come." Princess pressed her head against Penny's shoulder and made her purring sound. She did not understand the words, but she understood that her human was worried, and wherever the threat came from, she would face it at Penny's side. They had only days to prepare. The Admiral would return, and next time she would not leave empty-handed. Penny needed allies. She needed a plan. And she needed to prove that some things were more valuable than weapons. Penny spent the night reaching out to everyone who had watched Princess change. Her messages were simple and honest. She explained what the military wanted. She asked for help. Bryn responded first. The Avori handler arrived at her quarters before dawn, his healed wing tucked neatly against his body. "I watched her nearly kill me," he said, "and I watched her become something gentle. If they turn her into a weapon, everything you accomplished dies. Count me in." Dr. Yessen came next, which surprised Penny more than anything else. The Hawlock scientist had recommended euthanasia just 2 months ago. "I was wrong about her," Yessen admitted. "My data shows genuine neurological changes. Her aggression centers have physically shrunk. Her social bonding regions have grown. This is not training or conditioning. This is actual rehabilitation. If we let them take her, we lose the chance to understand how." Security Chief Dorn was the last to arrive, and his presence was the most unexpected of all. "I wanted her destroyed," he said bluntly. "I thought she was too dangerous to exist, but I have served in wars. I have seen what happens when we create weapons without conscience. Princess was bred for violence, but she chose something else." His rocky face shifted. "That choice matters." They gathered in Mallow's office and built their case through the night. Hours of footage showing Princess's transformation. Medical scans documenting the changes in her brain. Testimony from every handler and scientist who had witnessed the program. By morning, they had something worth presenting. Admiral Chorus returned with a larger delegation and clear impatience. She entered the conference room expecting compliance and found resistance instead. Director Mallow presented the evidence first. His holographic display showed Princess's journey from violent hatchling to gentle companion. He emphasized the unprecedented nature of the achievement and its potential applications. Bryn shared his personal testimony. He described the creature that had injured him and the completely different being she had become. He spoke about watching her play with children in the botanical garden, her scales shifting to happy colors. Dr. Yesin presented the scientific data. His charts showed measurable changes that challenged everything known about wardrake biology. He argued that Princess represented something far more valuable than another weapon. She was proof that even engineered violence could be overcome. Then Penny spoke. "I understand why you want her," she said quietly. "Wardrakes are powerful. Having them on your side would save lives in battle. I understand the logic." Chorus nodded, expecting agreement. "But you are missing something important." Penny looked around the room. "Every species in this galaxy has weapons. You have ships and soldiers and technology that can destroy planets. What you do not have is proof that violence is not inevitable. What you do not have is hope." She gestured toward the window, where Princess waited in the corridor, watching through the glass. Princess was created to kill. That was her only purpose. Every instinct, every gene, every moment of her existence was designed for destruction. And look at her now. The wardrake pressed her snout against the glass, her scales shifting to soft blues and greens. She chose kindness. She chose trust. She chose love. Penny turned back to Chorus. If she can make that choice, then maybe anyone can. Maybe the species you are fighting could change too. Maybe peace is possible when people stop treating each other as threats and start treating each other as beings worthy of patience. The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Chorus spoke. "You believe this creature represents hope for the galaxy." "I believe she proves that nothing is beyond redemption, not even something built for war." The debate lasted 3 more hours. Politics and practicality clashed with ethics and aspiration. But in the end, the Galactic Union reached a compromise. Princess would remain at the station. She would become the centerpiece of a new research initiative focused not on creating weapons, but on developing rehabilitation protocols for dangerous species across known space. Penny would lead the program, with conditions she insisted upon. Every creature in their care would be treated as an individual. No rehabilitated animal would ever be used for war, and Princess would stay with her always. A month later, Penny walked through the station with Princess at her side. The wardrake was nearly 10 feet long now, her scales gleaming like polished night, her horn spiraling proudly with its purple ribbon. Station residents no longer fled at the sight of her. Some waved, others stopped to talk. A pellucid merchant had started selling small purple ribbons as souvenirs. They reached the botanical garden, and Princess settled into her favorite spot near the water feature. Penny sat beside her, running her hand along the smooth scales. A tiny creature darted through the undergrowth nearby, a pest that the maintenance crew had been trying to catch for weeks. Princess noticed it immediately. Her predator instincts tracked the movement. But she did not hunt. Instead, she lay down and watched, calm and patient, just as Penny had done for her all those weeks ago. "Look at you," Penny said softly, learning to be gentle. Princess made her purring sound and rested her massive head in Penny's lap. Somewhere in the galaxy, wars continued. Species fought over territory and resources and ancient grudges. Violence seemed eternal and inevitable. But here, in this garden, a creature born for destruction had found another path. And every day that she chose peace over violence was proof that change was possible. The hatchling had driven away every handler. Then a human tied a ribbon on her horn and called her princess. And the galaxy would never be quite the same.